I'm English. I want to get the job done. When I was born, World War II still had 3 years to go. We didn't know whether our house was going to be there tomorrow. I didn't know whether my friends would be alive tomorrow. And there's a certain attitude where, have a cup of tea, love, take a deep breath, it'll be better tomorrow. I want to get the job done. If we commit to doing something, I want to do it the very best way. That's who I am. I really truly believe that, you know, God forbid if New York had been bombed like London or Manchester was bombed, I think the American public would have a very different view of our, you know, preemptive wars and how quickly we get into other people's business. Yeah, and don't forget, you know, we were almost taken out of existence twice within 80 years with the same enemy. And so we have a different mindset about all that. And I prefer mine. I have a friend who is an Englishman who, there's a magazine, a very famous military magazine called Jane's that will show you, you know, every weapon that was ever developed, every plane, every ship, every machine gun, everything, you know, in high detail specs about it. And he worked for them for years, right? And he maintains that when you say the word military, it's always like a bummer. It's always like a negative thing. And he wants to convince the military that they could be the heroes of this planet. All the money that they spend on weapons of war, you know, some of it could be, you know, spent to solve some of our problems of water, of energy, of, you know, and that they could actually be heroes. And I think that's a very interesting idea. And although I'm not a big fan of the military, I do want to help this guy change their image. Why can't they be seen as heroes? I mean, everybody wants to be loved, even the military. They want to be loved, they want to be appreciated. You have to really realize just how far we've come on that particular issue. When I wrote the prison song, I'd gotten a letter from a kid who had been caught with a couple of joints and sentenced to 10 years in jail. You know, when you take that kind of an incident and then you come and you see it's completely legal in Colorado and Washington State and maybe Alaska, and all of a sudden all these people are beginning to realize that, you know, we fell for the propaganda against marijuana, and basically it's changed so much, and I'm very glad about it. I don't advertise, you know, or advise taking drugs at all, but you know, I never knew anybody that wanted to smoke a joint and get into a fight. Everything sounds different when Neil's there. He adds a certain edge, a certain mystery, a certain dark is not the right word, but almost, you know. Yeah, it's very different when Neil comes and plays, and he knows it and we know it too. I used to stand in the middle of those two guys when they were, you know, prodding each other and pushing each other to do better than I just did in the solo, you know, if, you know, well, I played this, well, what are you going to play? You know, I stood in the middle of all that madness and just was amazed at their musicianship. I got to tell you that once we got on that stage, all that the bullshit just fell away, because by far the most important thing about our relationship is the music, and we're smart enough to know that. We worked on that album with Rick Rubin for a while. We did 7 or 8 tracks for Sony, and then Rick and David Crosby started to not see eye to eye, and the sessions became tense and not fun, and so we had to stop that. And of course, Sony own those records. They have to ask our permission to release them, which we will never give. But we went back into Jackson's studio, in Jackson Brown's studio in Santa Monica, and re-recorded a bunch of them. So we're about maybe a third the way through that record. And as soon as we stop going on the road to playing all these new songs, we're going to go back in the studio and finish it. Right now, I'm excited about a record I'm putting together with David. David and I, over the last 30 years, have been pleased and honored to have sung with some incredible people on some incredible singles. And so I thought that people might want to hear that. And so I'm working on an album of me and Crosby that are played with people like James Taylor and Bonnie Raitt and Joni and Carole King and Kenny Loggins and John Mayer and Jimmy Webb and stuff. Art Garfunkel and Paul Simon. It's going to be an incredible record. I have to seek their permission to be able to do it, of course, and I will do that. But that's a record I want to work on. I want to work on doing redoing Deja Vu, remixing it, and not fading, because we faded a lot of stuff, but we kept playing like crazy people, and some of it is very, very interesting. So I'd like to do that. I'm working on an acoustic album of me and David from 1993 that is a wonderful piece of music. Obviously CSN is going to go out again next year because we love to play in front of people. And I'm hoping in my dream that in 2015 that CSNY goes out for a world tour. Now that's only my dream and it's only what I want, but we'll see.